again, we'll say Bismillah and begin our event today. Really excited to see a whole bunch of folks, many familiar names and a whole bunch of new names as well. There's been a buzz about the event over the last few days as we, made the announcements, etc. Very excited about the folks who'll be presenting today. Just a brief peek into what we have on the agenda. After I give a brief welcome note, we have a fintech panel titled The Rise of Islamic Fintech, moderated by the CEO of Wahid Ventures, Safdar Alam, and three very exciting startups, a total of 4 co-founders will be on that panel. After that, we have Seterna Capital. They'll be doing a talk on customized investment management. It'll be followed by a talk on Islamic estate planning. I think a very relevant topic to everyone in the community. And then the last two sessions, crypto is one of my favorite topics. So we have two very accomplished community members. They've built hedge funds in the crypto space. I think between each of them, they manage over 8 figures in assets. And they'll be, educating us on, what's happening in the crypto space. And then we'll wrap up with a session on real estate. It's such a big asset class, and I think many in the community invest in real estate. And we have a second-generation entrepreneur, Mustafa Lada. His family has raised significant capital for numerous real estate projects over past couple of decades. And with him, I'll be doing a fireside chat on multifamily, investing in multifamily real estate. So we do these educational events so the community understands, who are the strong players out there, who's doing what. It becomes a great forum for people to get together, exchange ideas, etc. Right. And if you haven't been to an event before, I wanted to take a couple of minutes to share a little more about, who we are and what we do with the Halal Money Forum and some of the things that we plan for the community over the next couple of years, inshallah. So our mission is threefold, right? At the very foundation, we want to evangelize Islamic financial services, especially in the Western world, right? 5 markets of US, Canada, UK, obviously, France and Germany, right? There's, in 10 years from now, the Muslim population in these 5 countries alone would be, in the 20 to 25 million range, with a purchasing power of $600 to $700 billion. And I think there's a lot of potential. Many in the community may not be fully familiar with what's out there and what's available. And we want to be that evangelist for many of the things within Islamic Financial Services. The second aspect is to place the spotlight on the entrepreneurs, the executives, and the organizations in the space. And we can do that through events like this. So that is also a big part of our focus. And most importantly to me, something that is very dear to my heart and something that's very strategic is to be able to raise capital for some very exciting Islamic fintech startups, early stage startups that are popping up. I had a chance to interact with an amazing batch of young Muslim entrepreneurs who are trailblazing, the fintech space, having founded startups that are inspired by their faith, that are, and that are in line with, Muslim and Islamic values, right? And I started doing this in 2020, right in the midst of the COVID lockdown, and it was beautiful, just connecting with entrepreneurs in Indonesia, where there is a booming Islamic fintech scene. Organizations like Alami, Ethis, Hijra Bank are doing. Walaikum salam, are doing very well, doing very well in Indonesia, and then many other markets, right? And when I was interacting with them, I did have this fear that will these entrepreneurs be able to get the funding that they need, right? And in a most recent report by Islamic Finance News, IFN, they're doing an amazing job of covering the whole Islamic financial services industry. They did a survey where overall the entrepreneurs are very optimistic about what they're seeing in the market, but getting funding is a challenge. And I want to address that problem through the Halal Money Forum, where I am forming a group of angel investors who are passionate about fintech and Islamic fintech, and we hosted our first Islamic fintech pitch fest in December. we had 10 startups invited. They presented. Wahid Ventures was there as one of the institutions. A few angels were there. That was a pilot, and now we plan to do that once a quarter. So I'm hoping many startups will get funded. We are tracking about 400 startups. So just to summarize, it's a three-pronged mission with the Halal Money Forum. Evangelize Islamic finance, Islamic financial services, help create awareness about the organizations and the entrepreneurs in the space, and help raise capital for these early stage Islamic fintech startups, right? Now, for those who are not very familiar with Islamic finance, there are some impressive numbers, right? So here are some fun facts that globally, assets within the Islamic finance space are about 4 trillion, as per Bank of New York Mellon, right? And we all know the global Muslim population by the end of this decade would exceed 2.2 billion. I think that's going to create a massive opportunity. And many times I ask myself, like, am I the only fool who thinks there's a lot of potential in this space? And those of you who've seen the Thinking Muslim podcast, it's a very popular podcast, and they had one segment on Islamic finance, and the guest speaker from Cordova Capital, he had raised significant amount of money, and he's been a banker, and he's been a banker his whole life, been in financial services whole life. His team was the one that raised the money for that massive clock tower in the holy city of Mecca, right by the Haram. Now, regardless of whether you like that tower or not, a significant amount of money was raised, and he, offered some great insight about Islamic finance, both the good and the bad, and he also validated that yes, it's just a matter of time before we see a lot more fintechs coming up and succeeding. And I'll share some exciting things in a moment, right? I already spoke about a significant purchasing power of Muslims living in the Western world itself. And another exciting thing is that the overall Islamic fintech market is outpacing the Islamic fintech market is outpacing the overall fintech market, right? Islamic fintech is growing at almost 18%, as against 13.5% for the overall fintech market. And it's expected to be about $180 billion industry by 2026. Very recently, we saw some exciting things. Tabby, a Saudi-based startup, Shop Now, Pay Later, they achieve unicorn status, which I think is very exciting for the whole industry. And we in our panel, we'll be featuring two entrepreneurs, the founders of Takadao. Takadao is Islamic insurance on blockchain, right? And so we're excited to have them join us today. They just landed a $1.6 million round of funding led by Tim Draper, who's very well known in Silicon Valley. If you've seen the show Meet the Drapers, it's like a Shark Tank, but dedicated to tech startups. He's a Bitcoin whale. He invested $1 million in Takadao. I think that's great validation for the industry. We have Wahid Ventures also joining us today. Their parent company, Wahid Invest, has built a global footprint. This is a little dated, this data, but they were last valued at 300 million, and it's probably a lot more now. And it's very beautiful to see some of Europe's top football players and some of these top Muslim athletes like Khabib Nurmagomedov. I call him the Muhammad Ali of mixed martial arts. Like, athletes like Khabib and Paul Pogba, they are not only investing in Wahid, but also serving as brand ambassadors, which I think is very exciting for the industry, right? And I mentioned about Indonesia. That's, great startup ecosystem there. Pakistan has a ton of potential. So does Bangladesh, with large markets. And I'm not talking about, the Middle East, right? Middle East. But like I said, our focus is more on developing the ecosystem here in the Western world, right? Now, let's switch gears a little bit to tell you about, how can you benefit from events like this, right? Before I launched the Halal Money Show, I went and took some feedback from community members, right? Folks who have worked on Wall Street, who've had a good success in the corporate world, and took some feedback from them. And some of them said that, hey, we would love an opportunity to invest in Muslim-run businesses or Muslim projects, right? And that's one of the things that we do with the Halal Money Show, right? I mentioned this is a quarterly event, and we will feature, right, in an educational manner, without direct pitching or selling or whatnot. You'll get to know that, hey, what are the funds out there that have good longevity, that other community members have invested in. and that are offering, attractive returns. And these are the ones that we will do panel discussions, we'll do fireside chats, we'll have them present, so you get to learn about it. So hopefully you'll be able to invest in these projects. It was very nice. The first event we did, a cool story. A doctor in Silicon Valley was able to connect with a real estate developer in the East Coast, and they got talking about potentially investing in his project, right? A sister here in Silicon Valley works for a very big tech company, and she was able, through our events, was able to connect with wealth management entities, right? A young student wanting to go into real estate investing as a career, not as a side gig, was able to connect with other folks in real estate who build portfolios that are 25 million or 50 million or higher, right? So these are some of the things that are very able to create with events like this, and that's why I encourage people to come join us and attend our events regularly. So it becomes a great platform, for the community. Right. Just to reiterate, we'll do the Halal Money Show, once a quarter. There's 5 or 6 asset classes that I'd like to cover. Real estate is a given. It's such a big asset class. And within real estate, we'll cover investing in single family, multifamily, self-storage, and other areas of real estate as well, right? We will always cover crypto. I think it's many of my friends are very skeptical about crypto, and we are not here. And I'll put up a disclaimer shortly. We're not here offering investment advice or telling you should do that, or you should do this, or you should invest here. This forum is not for that, but it's basically understand the trends. What are other people thinking? What are other people doing? And then you get empowered to go and then decide that whether that should be part of your portfolio or not, right? So we will be covering real estate. We'll be covering crypto. We'll cover different aspects of entrepreneurship. In the past, I've done a session on franchising also. We titled it The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Franchising. I personally would love to see more and more Muslims develop franchises, right? A good story I'll share. I was in Southern California for a business meeting, and rather than go to a Starbucks, we met at Hamaria Yemeni Cafe. It was a beautiful cafe run by a young Muslim entrepreneur, and I think they are a entity out of Michigan. They have maybe half a dozen locations in Michigan. They have one in Southern California. I'm excited that they are going to launch in the Bay Area. So that is a good example of a franchise. And we would bring entrepreneurs from organizations like that to talk about their journey. And hopefully, if anyone is interested in building a franchise business, the Halal Money Show will cover that aspect as well. Now, the big thing is equities. Everyone is invested in the stock market, and the financial planning, the wealth management, investing in the stock market. We partner with organizations or collaborate with organizations like Saturna Capital. They have the longevity. They have the track record, $8 billion assets under management, and they always attend our events, either doing workshops or presentations, and becomes a nice way to educate the community, right? So equities is a big asset class. Also things like Islamic estate planning and Islamic wills, right? Today we're covering that. Those are the kind of topics you can expect, to see us cover. Right. So with that, I wanted to get ready to start lining up things for our panelists. But before I do that, I want to end with this. The based on the success of the inaugural Islamic FinTech Pitch Fest we did, and I'm actively building a group of angels. If there's anybody who's interested in looking at Islamic FinTech startups, you can email me. I'll drop my email in the comments, and please message me, and then we can invite you to some of our events so you can understand what are the disruptive startups that are being built. What are the problems being solved? There's some exciting categories from blockchain to trade finance to peer-to-peer investing, Muslim money apps like Kestrel is a good example. There's over 7 or 8 different categories within the fintech space, and I'm very impressed seeing many of these entrepreneurs. Some of them have left McKinsey or Goldman Sachs or have worked at Deloitte, have worked for large banks in the UK or in Wall Street, and now they've said, hey, we're going to take all that knowledge and bring an Islamic do an Islamic version of it, right? So I think there's, very exciting opportunities. I'll end with this. A couple of years, Alhamdulillah, we had an opportunity to do Hajj 2018. When a friend of mine learned about it, I received a call from him from Toronto, right? And he's not Muslim, he's Hindu, and his partners. He's and please, everyone, make sure you're muted, please, and I'll try and mute you all. So I get this call from a Hindu friend, and he was quizzing me about my experience with Hajj, and I asked him, why are you asking me all these questions? And he said, hey, there is a huge market for halal tourism. Right now, that's not a topic I want to get into, but just to understand that there is significant potential in the Muslim community.
30 right? From.
Once again, please just mute yourselves. Sorry about that. So there's huge opportunities, and he was building apps and working with the government of Saudi Arabia he said there's humongous opportunity in halal tourism, right? Our focus is Islamic fintech, but where I'm going with this is there is significant opportunity, such a large global Muslim population, a lot of disposable income. Muslims are traveling, they're investing, they are driving the global economy, and I think that's only going to increase. If you read the book Mechanomics, it talks about that. If you haven't read it, I would recommend you read the book Mechanomics. It's very enlightening. Now, what I say is, hey, if we don't build it, someone else would, right? 20, 30 years ago, when I was new to the United States, we would have to go drive an hour and a half to buy halal meat, right? And a lot of the suppliers were from the Jewish community, right? So let's not be a community where others are doing what we have to do, right? That's why I'm very excited about our entrepreneurs who are building fintechs, and we're hoping 2 years from now we'll start looking at investing in ed tech and media tech and hopefully other ventures as well. But right now, our focus is Islamic fintech. I think we're going to have a great show today, and really excited about having all of you join us. With that, I want to introduce our panelists. The session on the rise of Islamic fintech is going to be moderated by Safdar Alam. He is the founder of, he's a CEO of Wahid Ventures. Many years ago, he built a Islamic finance organization, Siam Capital, for about 12 years, then went on to, he's a serial entrepreneur, started Nia, that got acquired by Wahid, and for the last 3 years, he is the CEO of Wahid Ventures. Now, Wahid is an investment platform, and Safdar will tell you more about it. He's a lot more eloquent than I am. Wahid is an investment platform that offers various services, within Islamic finance. They recently opened a branch in London. So very excited that they actually have a brick and mortar facility in London, and they have a global footprint founded by Junaid Wahid.